Okay, this is jmartin with a 1v1 in grassy flats, and the title here is going to be sort of my learning experience with the Ottomans. I'm playing in this battle. I'm the Ottoman player. I've never really played Ottomans before, and I'm going to try to describe to y'all what I did and the mistakes that I made. And so I was like, I'll play a game with Ottomans, and I've never really used them before, like I just said. So I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do. I think you're supposed to use melee infantry to your advantage. So the build that I brought, and by all means comment on this or share your Ottoman build in this, is my idea was that light infantry is kind of useless because my melee guys are my lights. And what I want to do is get my melee guys involved in a melee fight. So I didn't bring any lights. What I did bring was 8 line units. I've got them arranged in the front. And then behind them I have 7 units of the Summit Janissaries, and I gave these guys each 2 chevrons. And then the other thought in my plan is obviously to get these Janissaries engaged with the line units standing behind them shooting. And then I really didn't want to mess with Cav, and I was sort of reading the unit descriptions, and these camel gunners here, camel gunners, are supposed to be, it said, scares horses or something, so I was like, well, if I could just neutralize this Cav with my Cav, then that would be great. So I brought some camel gunners, more on the camel gunner experience in a moment. Bottom line, don't recommend them. And after I'd put chevrons on everybody that I want to put chevrons on, I had some money left over, so I actually brought the good general. So this is my Ottoman build. I have 8 line, 7 Janissary, 4 camel gunners, etc. I'm going to click play and try to show you my opponent's build. Here I am. My opponent for this game was called Ediblemittens, and he thought he played a pretty good game. The problem is that I was, well, I guess you'll just see how the frickin' battle goes. But that's me way down there waiting for Ediblemittens. Come on, Mittens. Let's show up at some point. There we go. There's Mittens. I'm going to slow-mo down. Mittens is GB, and if we scroll out, it looks like he has, what is that, 4 lights? And he's got some line. He's got some elite units there. He's got foot guards. He's got the 88th and the Black Watch. He's brought basic general. Looks like, ooh, he has expensive cav. Lifeguards over there. And then if we zoom back over, more lifeguards and more dragoons. So 2 life, 2 dragoon. And he's got his lights arranged in line, not in a light formation, which actually is probably kind of irrelevant. Ediblemittens doesn't move much, so I advance up the line. There is a lesson that I'm about to share with y'all. Excuse me. Oh, he moves up a bit. When your opponent sort of is static and gives you the opportunity to encircle him, as is about to happen with me, I made the mistake of getting a little carried away with it. And we're gonna realize, actually, I'm gonna cut right here and segue into the next section. So cut. Okay, resume. Everyone back with me? What kind of happens is my opponent is narrow, and I'm wider than he is. You can see on the mini-map I'm spreading around to the side. This creates 2 problems for me that I'm not really sure how to take advantage of. The first is that when you're wider than your opponent, and your opponent isn't going to engage you, what's really great is if you can get some lights out, shooting at like parts of his line. Like over here, it would be great for me to have a couple lights where I could just pepper these lane units where I have a range advantage. But with the Ottomans, I didn't have a range advantage. I just had these melee Janissaries, which was kind of awkward. This would have been a lot easier if I had some light infantry of my own. But I didn't, so I kind of had a way to find a way to overcome that. My solution was to try to, and I'm going to zoom back, stay with me, over to my perspective, is to try to just sort of completely encircle him like this. The mistake that I made is that, and I think maybe it's about to start, is I sort of moved my camels, or my cav, way out here on their own. I'm actually going to fast forward a little bit to a point it becomes relevant. And because I'm wider than my opponent, my micro is a little more difficult. Now, my micro really sucks, frankly. I'm not very good at Napoleon Total War. So, when you make me spread out across the whole map, I'm going to make a few flubs. And this guy who is, I guess you'd say, I don't want to say camping, that's not really fair, but kind of more static. What happens real soon, let's hope to get there, is that, and I move my horse even wider and wider. I think at this point I can just actually get a whole circle around him. If you look at the minimap, I'm going that way. He's going to charge with this cav on my camels and do a great job. One of the things that I was fighting right now is, well, I only have 8 units that can actually fire bullets. Noob circle would be great against this guy, but at some point my Janissaries have to pull their weight, which resulted in I was relying on my camels, who do have a range attack, to provide like a firing point of my line. And I kind of screwed that up. And is it right about here? You can see I'm moving my camels into a really aggressive position behind his line, and there he goes. So he charges my camels, and God only knows what I was looking at the time. I think he's doing the same thing on the other side of the map. I try to rush these guys to do something relevant, and I've given them a chevron, and they're supposed to be getting its horse. I think I countercharged at the last second. I'm going to zoom back over the other side of the map. Are these horses? Yeah, and he's charging me over here. I was just not prepared. I was too mentally involved in my encirclement, which caused a huge problem. I do manage to countercharge these guys, lose their charge bonus, but you'll notice what happens is these British horses just chew up my camels. How often do you hear that? These guys fuck my camels up. I managed to get, you know, run some infantry over here at least to give some fire support. I think I do take care of these lifeguards, but yeah, there you go. And both my camels here rout. This horse lives. And this even compounds my problem, because now I have less units than I actually shoot. I'm still moving my line. He retreats. I think the same thing happens over here. Yep, routs both my camels. Do I actually get shots on this? A few. A couple. They're gonna rout soon. They're down to 11. But my camels did not pull their weight. And a little more fast forward. And I'm just like, you know, he's still got lights in front of his line. I really don't want to melee assault that doubled up. If this is going to work, I really need to be able to flank this guy. One thing to keep in mind whenever you're facing a camper or somebody's closed up like this is that, this is a lesson I learned from somebody watching their YouTube videos, but once you start creating kinks in their line, so right now it looks daunting, right? I got to kind of get around these guys. How am I going to do that? And think more four-dimensionally. Once I create a kink in their line, for instance, my plan here is I'm moving 2 infantry units that can get fire on this guy's flank. Once he creates a hinge right here to move a couple units there, that'll give my Janissaries an opening to rush. And this is exactly what happens over here. I'm moving my infantry. He recharges. I form square. He's kind of charging like 4 cav units blind into my square. My square is going to hold. That's a really good spot for me. I even have backup to fire there. He charges his general too, which, I mean, probably didn't decide the battle, but certainly didn't help. He retreats. This lets me get my infantry in line. Now, at some point, he's going to start to react, and he's going to be like, ooh, wow, flanking fire on my foot here. Yeah, he starts to move that guy. This weakens the center of his line. I'm doing the same thing over here. I'm about to get fire on this. You're going to notice a hinge opens up. Once that hinge opens up, like it's opening up right here, he's going to have to move these guys. He's going to have to move them. Once that hinge opens up, that's where you make your charge. And if a more standard build, we would interpret these Janissaries to be cav, this is when you make your cav charge. And over here, this is exactly what's happened. So he's again pulled 2 units from his center out to cover this. And I start to move my Janissaries in, because I can sneak a Janissary in there to get those guys in melee. I have a really big advantage. He comes back in with the cav. I think I don't form square here. Yeah, I was really engaged. But my Janissaries have made that charge, and they've sort of insta-routed the foot unit. I do get into square. Good for me. And this gives me the advantage. My Janissaries hit on the flank. You'll notice at this point that I interpret he's weakening his center, so I start moving the units in my center. These line units I'm repositioning, getting fire over here. This is great. Janissaries rush into the foot. It's also getting hit by 2 units. And the strategic concept that I'm able to pull out, or this is more of a tactical concept, that I'm able to pull off here is that I created a little bit of disorder in this line. Normally you'd use cav for that. And then I use that to rush the Janissaries in. The Janissaries are likewise creating more cover for me to rush more guys in. And on this side, he's completely disorganized. My Janissaries are just... He's all bunched up. I have... The whole center of my line is coming into play right now. And these guys are moving up. We've routed the cav. And this battle's going to be over real soon. The Janissaries about to hit these dudes in the flank. And it sort of all starts to crumble. Oh, this is going to be a fantastic charge into the side of that foot guard. Let's watch that. So I guess if you were watching this battle and you take two things from it, those would be that when you are doing the encirclement, don't get too carried away. And then secondly, because I lost my cav, I was dumb, I should have had him hang back. And the second thing is that don't get daunted, because if you can make a good initial move, like my initial flank over here, he's going to have to reposition. And when he's repositioning, you can use that time. Those Janissaries are really killing it. They're still going at 45 to 120. Anyway, while he's repositioning, you can use that time or that disorganization to do an advance. And traditionally, you'd use cav for that, which is why kind of I say earlier, you never want to use cav on cav. That's a bad use of your resource. You want to use cav to create disorganization in their line, and then exploit that disorganization is exactly what you want to do. And at this point, I've got his remaining units encircled, and we can just kind of run through them, whatever we want to do. I think somebody comes back from routing. Yeah, we're going to take care of them in a minute. Back over on this side, it's not really fair. And so, yeah, there you go. And the tertiary lesson is that if you're the person who's stationary, I've talked about this before in matches that I've lost, if you're the person who's stationary, your opponent will get around you, they will turn a flank, and they'll win. So anyway, thanks for watching. I want to say good game to my opponent, Ediblemittens, and if you have a better idea on how to use the Ottomans, by all means let me know, because I think it can be done much better than I just did. And check us out at twreplays.com.